Good enough.
That works.
All right, cool. So welcome to the Resolution Podcast.
Cheers.
This is episode 1. We're doing it with Stranger.
What's up? What's up?
What up, Stranger?
What's going on?
Who are you?
Nobody knows.
Nobody will ever know.
Nobody. Except for you, because I'm not wearing the mask.
Yeah, that's trippy. How did it come about, the mask itself?
That's kind of...
Is that going too deep, too fast?
No, not at all. No. So, the mask, the idea behind it, I was doing music for a super long time, and I noticed that people were reacting to it a certain way because they knew it was me. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I guess.
Excuse me. Yeah, so people would either immediately just be like, yeah, it's cool, whatever, or immediately be like, nah, no, I don't fuck with this, just because they know that it's me. So I wanted to create something where it was only about the music. Nobody knew who was behind it.
It's based on merit and vibe alone, without
Exactly. It was unbiased. If you like the music, it's because you like the music. If you don't know who's making it and you like the music, it's because you like the music. Right. You could care less who's behind the mask, who's making it. It's not about me. It's not about ego. It's not about nothing. It's about music only.
Mm-hmm. And so for those people who don't know who Stranger is, what kind of what would you say your music is like?
I've always lean towards creepy stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Dark, creepy vibe music.
Halloween type shit.
Yeah, pretty much. I really like cinematic style music as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, I'm sure, can hear a lot of cinematic elements in some of my production.
We were talking a couple days ago, and you were saying your best stuff comes about when you have a vision for it.
100%.
So is that the cinema? Do you see a movie then in your head when you're coming up with a song? Or
essentially, yeah. I think a lot of my best music, I have a very clear vision of what I'm trying to portray with my soundscape. I think about music a lot in a soundscape, where I'm building a world. It's a what's the right word for it? It's an atmosphere. Okay. You know what I mean? I'm trying to build an atmosphere to convey either a feeling, a message, a vibe, a place. And when I have a very clear vision of that, I find myself, just working a lot smoother and being able to actually build that and tell that story more efficiently.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So then you have Baba Yaga and Freak Show. And so the summoning, all of it seems to be, very creepy-esque.
Yeah.
So when you have those visions in your head, it's I think
that comes through clear with specifically those songs, actually, because, you could tell that, I was the one who made those songs, but at the same time, they're so different. They create such a different world and, environment. It's, Sorry, bro. I just had a brain fart.
Yeah, it's been a long day.
It's been a super long day.
Yeah, no doubt.
Need another drink.
It'll definitely sharpen the mind.
Yeah.
No, I feel you though. I feel when I listen to your music, there's a very clear sound design aspect to it. I feel your synths are very unique.
100%. Yeah, I like synths that are low, rumbly, but at the same time kind of liquidy. I like it to sound, like it's got motion, or that it's almost alive, as opposed to just a very stagnant kind of sound design. I like to incorporate a lot of automation, in different parameters to give it movement or give it life, so that you're hearing technically the same sound, but it's morphing and changing, so it never sounds the same, which is cool.
Yeah, and I was looking at your Ableton screen last time I was here when we were doing the video, and your automation lines are the most precise thing I've ever seen. It's like math almost. It seems
pretty much. That I don't know if that's, the right way necessarily to approach automation. I think that's just more my OCD of me liking a super perfect, portion of it. It's just a perfect bar.
It's almost, it's almost like
line.
It's like you like the visual aspect. Like it's like almost art to you, looking at the lines of automation. It's like
at that point in the process,
automation porn.
Yeah, pretty much. At that point in the process, it's not even as much. It is creative, but at the same time, my creative vision at that point, hopefully has been recorded onto, the song, and I've kind of laid it out. At that point, I'm just doing the technical things that I know I need to do to get the sound that I want. So yeah, it's well, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect lines necessarily. Just to me, that appeases me. That's how I go about it, and it gives me the result that I'm looking for. I'm not saying that would always work, to be so precise with your automation, but to me, it makes sense.
Have you ever not given a shit about the way it looks?
Yeah, Baba Yaga. That's why that in the drop, the first bass line is so weird. Because I was just doing random ass automation, and I was just drawing things, and because I wanted to be unpredictable almost. And then I found patterns that I liked, so I would copy and paste that, or reutilize this portion of it because I like the way it morphed that sound, and that's kind of how I built that drop.
Are they hand-drawn animations or automations, or do you like twist knobs?
No, they're hand-drawn.
Hand-drawn.
A lot of people do like to listen to it and twist a knob that's assigned to that parameter.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it does give you a little bit more feel, but at the same time, just the way that I work, I like to draw it in a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, I like when I was doing Serum, I'd have like my 4 little knobs, and I would just like record live and just kind of mess with the automation that way. But you definitely, I feel like you get more precise control with drawing it.
100%.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's not necessarily a good thing. Who knows? Maybe that's the wrong approach in some scenarios, but it's what I do to get the result that I want out of it.
So when did you start? Like, when was the first moment that you decided, like, damn, I need to make music, or I really want to make music? Like, you just had that, because everybody starts somewhere. So did you stumble into it, or was it like a firm decision you made one day? You're like, hey, I'm going to make music. And
see, I don't think it was ever a decision that I consciously made. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to perform or be a musician. As far back as I could remember, I remember me standing on the couch using a vacuum cleaner as a microphone just because I liked the way that the performer looked at, whatever thing I saw to inspire that. And then from that point on, I was always learning different instruments. And then I came to an age where, I was starting to get into bands and garage bands and stuff like that. But I always ran into the issue of not wanting to rely on other people. You know what I mean? Like people, and granted we were young, you know what I mean? And some of us, were pretty good and I think could have had a future as a band or something like that. But I found myself not being able to rely on anybody else. So I always saw, wouldn't it be cool if I could just be in control of everything, sit there and be in control of everything.
Like be the drummer, be the guitarist,
exactly.
Be the bassist, be the vocalist.
And then in high school, I started to get really into, I was always kind of intrigued by electronic music because it was just weird sounds that, don't happen in, the natural environment. You know what I mean? Like
you don't hear a bird going, bwah, bwah, or some shit,
It doesn't exist,
Yeah,
So to me, it was always intriguing and it always sparked, my artistic mind, my creativity. And I was like, how do they make those sounds, But at the same time, they can sound so beautiful and convey a message so clearly, even though it's not an organic, not a natural sound.
Yeah.
So I started to really
That's crazy. Like you can get emotional over like computer sounds.
Or like those analog synths. Yeah. I'll sit there. I mean, that's why I like analog synths so much. I think each one has its own heart and soul. And it's almost like getting to know a person when you're getting to know an analog synth because they all respond in a very certain way depending on how you you play them, or depending on what you automate or the parameters that you change, so you're almost like, it's like getting to know someone. And then once you're on like that friendship basis,
you start push the right buttons, and
and you could just get these
the best out of them.
Such a cool feel out of it that I've never found myself able to get with a software instrument. Well, maybe I wouldn't say that, because I get similar feels from, sound design, things like Serum. There's just something about an analog synth though that I can't get away from, and it's such a rabbit hole. Like you could see, well, you can't see in all the angles, but this room is out of room.
We're literally surrounded by grandmother. What do we got here? A sequential. What is this? I don't even know what these are.
That's a Prophet Rev 2.
This one right here.
Yeah, so it's like a remake of Dave Smith's Prophet 8, I believe. That one's got 16 voice polyphony, which is insane. You could have so many layers, and you could play with both your fingers and toes at the same time and still be able to,
I'd probably just sit on it.
you could just sit on it and roll around on it for sure.
Let me get the subsequent 37.
Yeah.
Korg synthesizer. The grandmother.
Yeah, my nice little tube amp.
Oh, that's funny. The grandmother, like grandma.
Yeah.
Granny.
Exactly.
The Granny Moog.
Getting back to, though, what kind of inspired me to make music. So in high school, when I was starting to get into electronic music, it was when I first started hearing, like UKF dubstep and stuff like that. And to me, that's when I had like a little click, because I had never heard anything like that. I was like, this is a totally new path, totally new space. Like, this is different and this is weird, and I'm weird. I think I should dive into this. And then it almost became an obsession. The first thing I got was that APC 40 actually, and a little free version of Ableton 10. Or no, there's no way it was Ableton 10. It was maybe Ableton 7, probably, like a free version. I was super excited to, start digging into that. I sat down, I opened it up. I looked at it for, maybe 5-10 minutes. I was like, nah. I closed it. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't even know how to make the software make a sound, if that makes sense.
Was that the first program you used for making music? You didn't use GarageBand before that?
No, I knew some people that were, dicking around on GarageBand.
Yeah, Ableton.
And that to me seemed too complicated at the time when I saw people doing it. I was like, I don't like this. I just want to play my guitar or whatever,
Right.
And then I got this little recording interface because I was like, I want to try to record me playing guitar.
Uh-huh.
And it came with Cubase. And Cubase to me was just like, I couldn't even figure out how to record my guitar.
That program, dude.
Yeah, I did not like it, And then, in high school when I got the APC 40 and that little free version of Live, I tried, and I'm like, I feel like I could do this. I want to be in control of everything, make my own, whatever. And yeah, I was like, I can't do it. And then for probably a couple months, I would walk past it on my desk, out of my room, and I would always look at it and be like, oh, this thing is so cool. I just wish I knew how to use it, whatever.
The APC 40.
Yeah, and I just kept walking past it and past it and past it. And finally, I sat down. I'm like, all right, I bought this thing. I have it. Like, I should, just try to dive into it and figure this thing out. So I started YouTubing this or that, little tutorials. And I finally started to, pick up on it. And I made this, my first little, 4 on the floor, I don't even want to call it a house track, but, I made it make sound, and I was super happy with it. I was super proud with it. Then I started to dig a little deeper. I Googled how to make a dubstep wobble, or, things like that. So I made a little wobble with a sine wave, and then I put it behind, a drum kit, and I played some piano. And I was so proud of it, man. It was horrible.
You still have that track?
I could probably dig it up, and I never want anyone to hear it, but I was so proud of it. I burned it to a bunch of CDs from iTunes, and I was like giving it to my friends and shit, bro. It was horrible. It was
Start charging money already, like $20.
It was the most awful thing I've ever heard. But I was just proud that I had assembled something tangible and been able to put it on a disc and listen to it in a car or do this or that. And that to me was so cool. And that was a slippery slope. Then I just, tumbled, down that rabbit hole, and it's like, well, I just want to get better and keep making and this or that. And, it took a long time, and I had a persona before this And that's when I started to figure out all the things like, oh, you know, people. I got to a certain point where it was kind of good, and one of the songs got picked up by like a famous YouTuber or whatever, and blew it up, right? You know, that to me at the time was like 50,000 plays. You know, that were native to my page. You know, had no backing behind it.
No doubt.
And it was cool to see people responding and reacting to something I made. So that was a super addicting feeling too, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all, at the end of the day, want some type of recognition for something that we love to do.
Smash the motherfucking like button, baby.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the society we live in right now, man. It's, you know.
Yeah,
how many likes are you worth?
Oh, yeah, right.
How many? You wake up in the morning, you look at your phone, and you're like, oh, I got a new follower. Sick. You know.
It feels good. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah,
it does.
Great.
You know, it's an addicting feeling.
I watched that follower count go up, and then when I watched it go down, I'm like, who the
yeah, you like dig through like who followed me.
It's always randos though, so I don't, you know, they come and go. But
well, if it's not a rando, you're like, oh, I don't see them following me anymore. You go to their page, unfollow them. It's just spiteful,
petty.
At that point, yeah.
You take away my dopamine, I take away your dopamine.
You watch your likes go down now. How do you feel?
Yeah.
You know?
Do you remember the first dubstep song you heard?
Oh man,
I feel like it's such a weird, different type of music. I mean, I remember mine. Rusko Woo Boost.
Rusko was one of the first for sure.
I was like, what is this?
That song is sick. I still listen to that to this day. First, a lot of the UKF guys like Schism was one of the first. Caspa was for sure one of the first.
Benga.
Yeah. Or Cockney Thug. That song made my brain collapse.
Yeah.
I love that song. It was just so nasty. Dr. P.
Scream.
Yeah. And then Skrillex came along. I was like, holy shit.
Such a funny story about Skrillex for me personally, at least.
Yeah.
I was listening to like some of those those legit quote unquote dubstep guys.
Yeah.
And I was going through UKF and I would see and suggested it was Skrillex. And I was purposefully ignoring it.
Yeah.
Just because it was everywhere, it was obnoxious.
You're like, come on, like how much is this guy paying to be on every, you know, sidebar, every advertisement? Like,
I was just kind of like being my hipster self, like, if he's like blown up that much, like I can't listen to him. You know?
I want the guy who's undiscovered.
But yeah, right. No, totally. And then I clicked it and I was blown away.
What song was it?
Kill Everybody.
Okay. Yeah, Kill Everybody. My name is Skrillex. Scary monsters, nice sprites. Like people like make fun of it. Like, you listen to Skrillex, whatever.
It's groundbreaking.
That song, when I heard it, I was like, what? Like, how? Like, who did he sell his soul to make that sound? Like, that was just uncharted territory. It was incredible.
So new.
It was disgusting. I was just like, what? Like,
so I remember my jaw dropped the first time I heard "Kill Everybody." I want to kill everybody in the world, and I was just like, "Holy shit!" And and then I like was listening to him for a while, and then I realized it's Sonny Moore from First to Last,
which was one of my favorite bands in my emo stage.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I grew up on that.
I
shit.
loved the album Heroin. Like that was like my album. You know, I was a little skater kid.
Yeah, and so it was just I don't know. I just remember hearing Rusko Woo Boost, and I was like, yeah, this is something different. But that's kind of what got me into producing. But how old were you when you first started?
That must have been, it was sophomore or junior year of high school, so I wasn't super young, you know.
These kids these days have it so like they could be 11.
Yeah,
and, like,
kids get
a hold
started
of Ableton
when they're 11, and then they blow up, you know, by the time they're 16, which is crazy. You know, it's good for them, and I envy that in a lot of ways. But you know, I've always, I guess, kind of been on the slow climb, slow grind. You know. Still grinding for it, trying to make it a career, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. Have you dabbled in any sound design as of yet?
What do you mean?
Have you... Well, of course you've done sound design. I meant like, have you worked with like any short films or any like movies or anything like that? I
have a friend who's also a vocalist. She sang in the song I Am the Fire, which is, you know, old to me now. I did that song like 3 or 4 years ago. So to me, it's one of those I listen to. I'm like, oh, I hate this. But she's also an actress, and she was working on like a YouTube short, and she needed some, you know, original pieces for certain scenes to do. And I was like, yes, yeah, I would love to do that. So I did, and I actually, it's funny. I I still love metal music. I'm super into metal music. I love playing, metal guitar, stuff like that. So I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to utilize that, because the scene, it's like a comedy bit, but in the scene, it needed to be super aggressive and just ridiculously over the top. I was like, let's play some genty stuff. Like, let's get wild with this, and I found that process super fun, and it's definitely a space I would like to get into more, especially since I've always had a knack at, kind of creating cinematic atmospheres and themes and stuff like that. I always thought it was a space that, I would like to end up at one day. I would really like to have a career as a musician, but at a certain point I would like to, end up being able to, sit in my home studio and score and, create soundscapes and different worlds in audio,
Yeah, that track, I always forget what it's called, but the most recent one you sent me that's on my likes on SoundCloud.
It's either Boom or Russian Sleep Experiment.
Boom.
Yeah.
Although Russian Sleep Experiment is crazy.
So that one's...
Boom, the beginning of it, it's a movie.
Apocalypse.
It's a movie.
That's what you think.
It's so good, and I could totally see you doing scores and sound design for short films and commercials 100%. And stuff like that. I remember the first time I popped it out, I'm like, this. Did you rip my question was, and I know you didn't, but my question was, did you rip the audio from a movie?
Yeah, no. No, it's a lot of definitely samples and layering and a lot of, placing it in the sonic field, utilizing effects, reverbs, delays, things like that to, I like to test my music a lot on headphones. Just because I think you could dive into the song a little bit deeper when you have headphones on, because if you close your eyes, you're almost in that space, and you can tell if that's actually effectively being conveyed, or if oh, this needs to be pushed back further or whatever. It's really cool building a 3D landscape in 2-channel audio. It's such a exciting thing for me. I love sitting down and digging into that. So yeah,
how do you make it go?
Exactly.
Like this when you only have sound going
exactly
this way.
But it tricks your brain into thinking, oh, this sound is twirling around my head, and that's an effect I use a lot with hi-hats. I don't if you critically listen to one of my songs or a lot of my songs, you can notice that I do that a lot with my hi-hats. I make it sound like they're kind of spinning around you.
A hi-hat headband.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Which is cool because hi-hats, sometimes maybe it's just because I listen to the song a million times over and over again when I'm working on it, that the hi-hats just in the center there just sounds so, even if it's kind of a complex beat pattern, it sounds so boring and just stagnant to me, and I feel like swirling it and then just kind of delaying it a little bit so it's a little off time, a little weird, and swirling, it just gives it so much dimension and makes it seem even more complicated than it really is. It's just a simple tick 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 4 on the floor. But gives it a whole nother, I don't know, character almost, in the song.
Yeah, a little bit more human. Even though the music you're working with is electronic.
Yeah.
It's funny how no matter how computery dubstep or EDM might sound, you still have to have that human element of
100%.
rhythm and randomness to
Exactly.
make it bounce, and people have to feel it that way.
Exactly.
It's nuts.
That's another thing I utilize a lot actually is in some of my just weird atmospheric noises, it'll be somebody just saying a phrase, but I've transposed it so low that it's just inaudible. It's just noise and pops and clicks, so it's definitely not timed up with the timeline. But then I'll take something like an auto pan, and I'll use that to turn something that's not tempo locked into something that is modulating in a way that is tempo based. So I'm on 150 BPMs, right? I always typically produce at 150. And I have something that's just, it's not timed, it's not quantized, it's nothing. But then I'll take an auto pan to make it come in and out rhythmically. But at the same time, those polyrhythms that are off time are still there and kind of just creeping in, every once in a while. Just to give it you almost forget that it's just a 4 on the floor, boom, clap, and it just makes it so much more in depth, than you could possibly get just timing everything up perfectly on the timeline and just, trying to roll with it that way.
You ever manually adjust MIDI notes to give it more rhythm. That's what I used to do with hi-hats. I'd go in and or like even snares. I would like just
I don't
randomly
find myself
go in
doing it that way.
and just move things
the way
a
I
little bit.
typically do that is I'll just use track delay. So I'll just take the track as a whole if it's a snare, and I'll just delay it like 15 milliseconds or something like that, just to give it more of a groove. So the kick hits, and then right when you're expecting the snare, it doesn't quite come, but then it comes right there. So it's not like off rhythm where it's bothering you, but at the same time it's off enough where it gives you more of a groove to it.
It's so interesting how like if it's perfectly on time, you don't like it, but if it's like way off, it's also not good. It's got to be like just the perfect amount of off.
Yeah.
For it to be good.
It can't be a metronome, but it also can't be just,
I think there's a Japanese thing called wabi-sabi, and that is like the appreciation.
Like a good song name.
Yeah. I think that's what it is, and I might be wrong and make myself look like an idiot here, but wabi-sabi is the concept that there's beauty in imperfection.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
And so like they'll draw like circles, and although they're not perfect circles, it's like,
sure. That's a super simple maybe example of that, but I like the ideology behind it. That's super cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's why people, you still like bands. It's something about 5 different people coming together, in the same kind of rhythmic space. And it's really cool and powerful to see 5 different people coming together on just one single path, and then creating this force almost, It's incredible. It's something really cool about a band that's just on the beat. It's an incredible experience, and in a lot of ways I think I try to emulate that in the music that I make, but it's difficult in a lot of ways with computer music. So I do try to incorporate some different things that are, just a little off, just to make it feel human. Like all the different elements are different, but also, coming together, in the same time signature, I guess. I don't know.
This is a random thought, but do you ever like give your instruments personalities?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. That goes back to having a vision of what I'm making. And a lot of, songs that I've made, different sounds to me represent a different character. So this sound represents this character, and it's got its own life, and then it's got its counterpart this, and then it comes down to back to music theory where it's a conversation. This is a call, this is a response. You know what I mean? But it's also done by the different characters, so it's almost like I'm casting characters in a movie. But that's the way I approach music, which may be strange, but it's stranger.
Like that. I thought of that because you were like each person in a band has their own thing, and every individual who's playing that instrument has its own personality. So I guess casting those instruments and those elements in a certain way could make them play with other instruments in certain ways.
Exactly. They can contrast and counteract each other in a cool way.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
What's your favorite synth?
Favorite synth?
Digital. We're not talking
favorite digital synth is probably still Serum.
You were just telling me about the new one though.
Yeah, I haven't gotten it yet. It's called Phase Plant, and they're not paying me to say this. I wish they were.
I thought it was Face Plant. I was looking it up.
Yeah, Phase Plant.
Phase Plant.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of of the bigger guys sitting down digging into it and
bring back Massive.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like Massive and Serum. Well, maybe it's not like Massive, but I don't know. It's a crazy new synth. I want to get my hands on it at some point, but
Serum is still the wave.
Yeah.
Form.
Well, for me, it's still the wave form. For me, I think I just have so many unfinished projects that, kind of based around Serum that if I were to move to Phase Plant now, I would never finish, anything that I'm working on with Serum, because then all of a sudden you get so excited by this new sound and this new synth that the old one is no longer exciting, so you're no longer inspired by that track or that sound, and you just want to move on from it. But that could have been something super cool that now you'll never finish and nobody is ever going to hear.
Do you think that might even change the sound of STRANGUH?
I don't think so. I always, no matter what different sound I make, or even if I just turn something, that's not even musical at all into a wobble or a growl, it always ends up sounding the same. It's probably the way that I process it, or maybe the sounds or vibes that I'm drawn towards, that it's all kind of seems in the same lane in a way.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it'll matter what I make. You'll still be this guy made it. You know?
Still Stranger.
It's just, yeah. I think it's just my audio signature almost. It's just a weird thing to it. I don't know. I love Bit Crusher. That's something I use on just about everything. So you always hear that no matter what I'm using.
Vocals, hi-hats, snares.
Vocals to a point. I don't do snares with Bit Crusher unless I'm doing it as an effect, you know, trying to lead it in or lead it out or just make it sound weird.
You were talking more about synths then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Synths in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Bit Crusher. I like when things sound just shitty, I guess. It kind of just destroys the audio in a really cool way. That's
exporting 128, man.
Yeah.
Permanent Bit Crusher.
Yeah, exactly. Just the whole song, Bit Crush.
It's on the master, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
100% dry wet.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I kind of want to tie back to the mask, and we're kind of, you know, inspired that a little bit more. So I saw a quote when I was kind of, you know, I was getting towards the end of, I think, my first persona, where I, you know, got my first little bit of recognition, whatever. And I was like, I just want to do something different, you know. And I was also at the same time feeling frustrated because I felt like a lot of people, you know, that, you know, they'd hear the music or I'd be with them and be like, yeah, this is awesome. But then I'd post, and like, they would never, this comes back to stupid likes. They would never like it, or, you know, but then they would say, oh, I saw this or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's cool, you saw it, but you couldn't give me a like because, you know, numbers matter. You know, people will respect you more the more likes you get. I was just getting frustrated, feeling like, okay, well, you know, the people close to me don't support me, whatever. So I had the idea to make something that nobody knew it was me. And if they ever caught wind of it or like, yo, this is cool, you know, this is sick, you know, they wouldn't be biased towards it. If they saw something from it, they wouldn't be biased from it. And then, you know, when I was kind of thinking about that, I saw, I forget what I was watching, but I heard this quote, and it was, a mask hides the face but frees the soul. And I thought that was super cool because in a lot of ways, like, I don't know, just conventional life or the, you know, your everyday life, it's almost weird to be creative or talk about creative things. Like, I find myself like embarrassed almost if somebody overhears me talking about my dream or my creativity or something like that.
It's just so messed up, dude.
Yeah,
like,
but it's
everybody's like got this thing that's latent inside of them, and like we just don't feel like.
But I don't want people to hear it because then they'll be like, oh, he's like one of those creative guys. You know, he does, you know, it's just a weird thing to it, you know, so I'm almost embarrassed by it. And then, so I feel like the mask allows me to just fully be me and convey exactly what I want to convey without having to wonder, like, oh, they're, you know, they see it as me and they think it's stupid because it's me, whatever. You know what I mean? It just, you know, it separates me as a person from my persona, and my persona is almost more me than I am. Because in my everyday life, in my job, whatever, like, that's not me. Like, that's not actually me. It's almost I'm more me when my actual face is hidden, which is a weird thing to say. Mm-hmm. It's kind of sad, actually, but that's when I feel the most free and liberated, you know, when I'm doing stuff with that persona or as that artist, you know, it's just like, that is truly me. That is me, you know, my soul coming out of my body. And this is you seeing who I actually am almost, you know, as opposed to the face that I put on. The face that I put on is worse than the mask I use to hide my face, you know? Like, and so many people I think can relate to that, you know, in their everyday lives. Like, we almost get used to putting on that face that becomes us, and it just starts to tear us apart. And
interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like,
how weird is that, though?
A mask, but
yeah,
but you at least
literally.
Yeah, right.
But it's a worse mask than actually, you know, hiding your face.
Right. At least you're choosing to put on a mask, a separate mask.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like you have like a different mask that you can switch into.
And I've almost utilized hiding myself to, you know, show who I really am, which is
very ironic.
Yeah, it is super ironic and, you know, contradictive maybe, but
results in some badass music.
Yeah. Hopefully it gets better. It gets more traction.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm always interested to hearing what new tracks you're going to come out with. How did the mask come about? Like, how did you choose that style for the mask? Like, why isn't it something else, I guess is my question. Like,
so
is there a message behind that?
Yeah, I mean, The Mask, it was kind of inspired by a movie that I really liked when I was a kid, Kingdom of Heaven. And there was the king, the only king, he stood for peace. He wanted nothing more than just peace and harmony and, just people to, just be good to each other. But he had, disease where his face was all messed up. So he wore this mask, it's this neutral but stern, it was a powerful looking mask, and I was super inspired by that. Not only by the way that it looked, but what that character, stood for essentially, and that was, in a lot of ways what I stand for. I want people to support each other and just be cool. Like we all got so much going on in our everyday lives, so many people are just so negative and, they're so negative that they like to tear other people down. And, it's just this vicious circle of, well, this person is an asshole to me, so I'm going to be the asshole to the next person I see. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but yeah, I mean, that in a lot of ways inspired, what I was going for The Mask. Mm-hmm. Funny story behind The Mask, I couldn't obviously find anything that looked the way that I wanted it to. So it was lots and lots of Google searching, looking for, custom mask makers, things like that. And I finally came across one guy, and he had a, neutral mask that I thought would be a good starting point for it. So I started talking to him, and he started to develop it. And he would send me pictures, the whole time he was developing it and, kind of molding the whatever this thing is made out of. I don't know, plaster. Mm-hmm. And then it started coming down, to the end, and he's like, yeah, you can come pick it up. And, I was like, all right, awesome. I'm super excited to come pick up the mask. But then I started thinking, I'm like, man, this guy, he like makes masks in his garage. Like, isn't that kind of weird and a little creepy? So I look up the address that he sent me, and he's like in the middle of nowhere, like just way south Illinois, middle of nowhere.
Some like, random cornfields.
Yeah, I was like, what if this guy's just gonna kill
Comes
me?
out, meets you, and he's wearing a mask.
So I called a bunch of my buddies, like, yeah, you guys got to come with me. Like, if this guy tries to kill me, I need.
I'm going to buy a mask in a cornfield.
Exactly, but no, super super cool guy. Super talented at what he does, and he made me this one-off, super cool mask that, I guess has become the face of this little brand that I have.
STRANGUH.
Yeah.
You wear it on stage.
I do.
Hot as hell.
It's really hard to breathe in, I'm not going to lie. He did cut a little hole here, and the nostrils are actually clear, but man, that is just not enough airflow.
Yeah. Especially on stage.
Yeah, and me jumping around and, maybe I'm a little tipsy from before and I'm already, not breathing well.
You ever produce in it?
No. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can get into character.
It's probably hard to see, though.
It is, yeah, because I didn't want people to be able to see my eyes, so it does have a screen over that, too.
Trying to automate and with that mesh over your eyes would probably be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, after every show I've played, the first thing I do, I remember one show I played, actually. They were, trying to have me play one more song, giving me the encore. But I was I could barely breathe. I had barely made it through the set. I'm so hot. I've got a beanie on over it too, just because I thought it looked cool, right? And I'm running off stage, and one of the other DJs is like, "Oh, they're calling you out. They want one more set." It's a guy playing after me, and I'm like, "No, I can't." So I just run off a stage, take off the mask, and just trying to catch a deep breath. And yeah, that was that. But
no encore.
No encore. I couldn't breathe. I would have gotten halfway through the song, and they would have had to drag me by my feet off of the stage so the next guy could play. Yeah.
Really put. I mean, you.
It was cool though.
Gave it your all. It sounds like.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Being on stage, man. That's a rush.
Oh, like nothing I've ever experienced. It's so crazy. Not only just to be playing on stage in front of people, but to be on stage playing something that you made in front of people and then just watching people go wild to it. It's so gratifying and satisfying, to see something that you put so much time and effort into to make something tangible. Now you're able to play it and just see how it affects people. And that's what it comes down to, is affecting people. That's what I really want to do.
and like you don't see the product, you just hear it, and it's waves of air. Like we were talking about this. It's like compression of air making people move. You're literally controlling a whole environment, atmosphere,
of air on those
vibe.
systems.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
You become like a shaman in a way.
Yeah, or like a you're
like I don't know, like a magician.
We were talking about this actually when I was telling you about one of my newer songs. You know, you're essentially hypnotizing the crowd. Like you're getting everyone on the same beat. Like everyone is in the same space in that moment.
And it takes people over.
It's cool. It comes back to the same thing, like seeing like 5 people in a band come together and be in the same space, but to see a whole crowd of people just like right there with you, like it's such a powerful thing when people come together like that. It's this intangible, almost sixth sense thing where everyone's just like breaches into this whole like different space and they're all there together experiencing it together, and that's such a cool thing. It's a cool feeling. It's cool to be a part of and cool to watch, and I mean that's when all of this pays off, in that moment.
Any shows coming up?
No, not right now. To be honest, I've been kind of a hermit lately. Haven't been getting out there trying to get booked, and I definitely, that's something I need to put more energy into and be a little bit more intentional about. I'm so focused on the projects I'm working on or like making this new whatever. I just get so lost in my own world. I forget that in order for my world to be shared or for me to possibly be able to make a career out of it, I've got to get out there and push what I have made already and try to get that side of things going a little bit more. I'm so like focused and obsessed with getting better and making a better song than the last one, like I just get tied into that, I think, but I need to push beyond that, and I think I'll actually get a lot further because of that, just maybe stepping away from this for a little bit and just getting out there and just being a person and being in person and trying to make connections, which I think is super important, and trying to make a career out of, anything artistic.
I mean, you're pretty multifaceted though. So, if you're doing soundscapes, atmospheres for films, music, you don't really necessarily need to be DJing or like on stage, like progress.
That's true. I guess that's just a dream of mine, is to, be that guy.
You do want to be on stage.
Yeah. I really do enjoy that. But at the end of the day, as long as I'm creating or making something, something where there's a starting point, and then, the whole process, which I, really enjoy, but also, just beats me down to hell. You know what I mean?
It's so which is crazy. Part of it. The highs and the lows are
exactly
gnarly, dude.
But then when you get to that end and you have that thing and it's done and it's deliverable, and it's such a cool feeling, and you feel so accomplished.
Yeah.
It's something that so many people, or like me in my day job, you don't get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You show up, you clock in, you do your thing. But
there's no like definite
at the end of it, yeah, there is no definite. That's what I think drives me nuts.
There's no like package you can like,
and why I don't like it. Yeah, because
that,
you don't get to at the end of something, you're like, oh, this is gratifying because I started here and this is cool, But I just don't get that.
I almost feel more drained as a creative after not having created something.
Yeah, 100%.
Like once I create something, it like gives me a boost of energy. I feel like I could do anything.
Oh yeah. You're on top of the world.
Yeah.
You're just like, this is so, I can't wait
even
to share
though,
this.
even
this
if the project
so cool.
beat you to hell, like you were saying, and it was like tough to get out of.
Or even if it wasn't the best, you're like still not happy with it. You're like, it's still cool
product.
I made something.
Yeah,
you have
dude,
something, you delivered it, you shared it. You know?
It was up here and now it's like in the world for other people.
See, that's another crazy thing to think about. Another thing that really keeps me into it is like, this started like in this like mushy thing in my head, like it's just like, what is it, electromagnetic, pulses and things like that, where all of a sudden like it went from that, then it coursed through my body, went through my fingers, and I created this thing on some crazy machine that I don't understand,
Right. Yeah.
And then got into some form, that I can share or like put on the internet, which I also don't understand.
It beams up into space.
And then into other people's ear holes. And then it just violates your ear holes. In the worst way possible. Yeah.
Damn, dude.
It's crazy, man. It goes super deep. if you like think deeper into things, it just starts to get, kind of crazy.
Just a bunch of ones and zeros.
Well, yeah, once it hits the computer, yes. But that's another reason why I like analog synths. It's not ones and zeros. It's electricity, which is crazy. You're controlling electricity with an analog synthesizer.
I don't get that. I don't understand that at all.
Electricity essentially comes in through the wall, and then that current is what you're essentially tuning, and then altering, and then modifying. That's what you're hearing with an electronic synth. I
did not know that.
It's electricity, which is natural. Gnarly, that's why analog synths have such a cool sound. It's natural.
And all this, I made music for years.
Yeah.
We're using, Serum and all that stuff, and I'm so ignorant.
Yeah, those.
Wow.
The
learn something new every day.
Yeah, the electronic synths, they get really close. I mean, a lot of them, they do sound like analog synths in ways, and you can get the same type of effect. But it's still just ones and zeros trying to emulate what an analog synth is doing. So it, to me, doesn't have that. There's just something you can't necessarily hear. I don't know how to explain it. There's something intangible about an analog synth. It just sounds different. It's got a different feel to it.
They are warmer.
100%. Yeah, they're definitely warmer. They just sound unique in their own way.
To me, it sounds fuller.
Yeah. I like. I use that Subsequent 37 a lot for my subs, just because it. Even if it's in mono, it just sounds massive.
Yeah.
It just feels like it fills up a space really nicely.
I feel like a saw wave here or a square wave here sounds better than a square saw wave in Serum or something.
And the cool thing about an analog synth is distortion, where you push it to the point where the thing is just crushed and distorting. Like, it's still a natural phenomena, as opposed to in a computer, distortion really quickly sounds just horrible because it's distorting just electronic audio. It's not natural.
It's not a real thing.
You can push an analog synth, I think, harder. Same thing with like analog compressors or things like that. You can just push them harder to the limit and get a really cool effect when the thing does start distorting, because it's still happening in a natural way, as opposed to a program trying to emulate what that will have. It's like a robot trying to be a human.
Guessing.
It's like a robot trying to be a human. It can get close maybe, but it will never truly have the human emotions and things like that. That's why I relate these so much to like
people,
to like an entity almost.
Oh yeah, entities, I guess.
Is kind of.
Do you talk to them?
Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah. Just as I softly stroke the
That's
keys.
what you were doing when I walked in here?
Yeah. Maybe. Who knows?
That's cool, man. Yeah. Awesome, dude. Well, honestly, I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to like say to the people?
I don't know, man. To be honest, I don't even know what we talked about. It. I hope it comes out good. I hope I kind of conveyed, the story behind why I kind of created this, But it was fun talking to you.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah.
It was fun picking your brain and like kind of see where the artist comes from, and
people will probably think I'm even weirder than they already do, which is cool with me.
Stranger than fiction.
I am stranger than most.
Where can we find you?
SoundCloud, Facebook, Spotify,
and that's
Apple Music.
Everywhere.
STRANGUH. Stranger.
Big ups.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being on here.
Thanks for coming over, man. Peace.